The vast station floated like a dark crown above the glowing planet. From a distance, it looked calm and silent, but inside it was alive with noise and movement. Traders, travelers, soldiers, and workers from dozens of different species crowded the metallic corridors. Their voices echoed in many strange tones, some harsh, some soft, some nothing like a human voice at all. At the heart of the station stood the security gates, tall frames of silver light, where every being had to pass before gaining entry. No one escaped the scan. No one hid from it. The scanners were more than machines. They were symbols of power. Everyone knew they could detect even the smallest blade, the faintest drop of poison, or the most advanced hidden device. For years, aliens trusted those gates more than they trusted each other. Passing through was always tense, but most creatures walked quickly, hoping the guards would not notice them. That day was different. A human arrived. He came alone. No escort, no companions, no baggage. Just a tall figure walking steadily down the shining floor toward the scanner. His boots clicked against the metal with a rhythm that seemed too calm for such a place. The crowd turned to look. Murmurs spread fast. Humans were rare here, rare and dangerous. Stories about them traveled faster than light. How they survived impossible planets, how they fought wars with fire in their eyes, how they carried something inside that no alien could quite understand. The guards noticed him instantly. They were insect-like, with hard shells gleaming under the cold lights. Their legs bent like steel springs, and their arms ended in claws sharp enough to cut stone. The leader raised one arm, signaling him to stop. His glowing eyes studied the human carefully, not with curiosity but with suspicion. The scanner hummed behind them, glowing faint blue. The air around it seemed heavy, as if the machine itself was aware something unusual was coming. The human stopped at the edge of the gate. His clothes were simple, dark fabric, worn but neat. No armor, no weapons visible. His hands were empty, resting calmly at his sides. He did not shift nervously, did not avoid the alien stares. He simply stood tall, breathing slowly, his gaze moving across the guards like he had already seen 100 checkpoints just like this. The leader gave a sharp click, and the guards stepped aside. The meaning was clear. Step through. The crowd leaned closer. Some aliens whispered warnings. Humans are reckless. Their bodies carry storms. Why is one here alone? Others just stared, waiting for something to happen. The human took a single step forward, then another, and then he entered the gate. The scanner came alive with a soft pulse. Beams of light moved over his arms, legs, and torso. For a moment, the screen behind the guards showed nothing. Clean. No weapons. No devices. The guards exchanged looks, expecting the scan to end quickly. But the machine did not stop. It shifted deeper, searching his core. The light reached his chest. The monitor flickered. A strange sound escaped the machine, low and uncertain, almost like a stutter. The crowd fell silent, every eye fixed on the glowing display. And then it froze. A single image filled the monitor. A beating heart. Human. Alive. Strong. The rhythm pulsed across the screen in glowing waves. Thump, thump, thump. Each beat echoed through the speakers, deep and steady, as if the entire hall was breathing with him. The guards stiffened. Their claws twitched. The machine never froze, not once in all the years of its service. Yet now it locked onto one thing, the human heartbeat. The leader hissed in alarm and slammed a claw against the side of the console. The screen did not change. Another guard tapped furiously at the controls. Still, the heartbeat remained, glowing red, filling the room with sound. The monitor listed no weapons, no toxins, no hidden devices. Only one word appeared in alien script. Unknown. The aliens in line shifted back, their voices rising in nervous whispers. Why is it frozen? What is inside him? Is his heart a weapon? Fear spread like fire through dry grass. Some aliens turned their heads away, unwilling to look. Others stared at the human, wide-eyed, as if he might explode at any second. But the human did not move. He stood calmly in the center of the scanner, his face still and steady. His eyes were fixed forward, his breath smooth, his shoulders relaxed. The frozen monitor seemed to scream a warning, but he ignored it. His calmness only made the scene heavier, stranger, more terrifying to those who watched. The guards hesitated. None of them wanted to step closer. The leader narrowed his glowing eyes, uncertain whether to shut down the scanner, arrest the human, or let him pass. Every second felt longer than the last. The heartbeat continued to echo. Thump, 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 each sound stronger than the last. At that moment it was clear the human had not just arrived at the station. He had brought something else with him. Something invisible, something no machine could understand. His arrival was no ordinary step through a gate. It was the beginning of a storm waiting to break. And the frozen monitor, locked on his heart, was the first sign of it. The hum of the scanner filled the air like a nervous whisper. The blue lights that circled the gate flickered faintly, struggling to continue their work. The frozen monitor showed the human heartbeat in glowing red, steady and strong. But the machine did not stop. It pressed further, as if trying to peel back layers it had never touched before. The alien guards shifted uncomfortably. Their claws tapped against their armored legs, betraying their unease. One of them hissed a command, and the machine reset with a loud crackle. The lights dimmed, then blazed bright again, preparing for a deeper search. The leader's glowing eyes stayed locked on the human, watching for even the smallest movement. The human remained still. He neither resisted nor complained. His calmness only made the tension sharper. Every alien in the queue leaned closer, their voices reduced to whispers. The name human carried a weight. Some had only heard rumors. Stories of a species that could survive in storms, endure poisons, and fight even when hopeless. To see one standing there, his chest marked by a frozen heartbeat, made those rumors feel real. The scanner gave a sudden shriek as the second scan began. Its lights wrapped around the human's chest, glowing brighter, pressing deeper, measuring the rhythm of life inside him. The monitor pulsed in time with his heart, louder this time, as if amplifying it for all to hear. Thump, thump, thump. The sound spread across the hall like a drumbeat. The guards stepped back, ears twitching. The crowd flinched with every pulse, as if the heartbeat itself carried force. For the first time, the leader's eyes narrowed not with suspicion but with unease. Machines did not stutter. Machines did not hesitate. Yet here, before everyone's eyes, the scanner behaved like a frightened creature. The human's face remained unreadable. His eyes were calm, almost patient, as though he had expected this reaction. He did not glance at the monitor or at the guards. He simply let the machine do its work, as if daring it to uncover whatever truth it sought. Suddenly, the screen flared. A burst of symbols appeared, then scrambled, then disappeared into static. The guards cursed in their hissing tongue. One of them slammed his claw into the console again, but the static only grew louder. The sound echoed like angry waves crashing against stone. And then, out of the chaos, the heartbeat reappeared. This time brighter, stronger, and impossible to ignore. The leader's mandibles clicked nervously. He turned to his second-in-command, who shook his head. They had no explanation. The scanner's records stretched back hundreds of years, across thousands of species, but nothing like this had ever been logged. The human was unarmed. That much was clear. Yet the scanner behaved as though it had found a weapon hidden inside his body. One alien from the crowd could not hold back. He shouted, "Stop him! That pulse! It's dangerous!" His voice trembled with fear, and others nodded quickly, their whispers turning into sharp cries. Some took steps backward, pressing against the walls, unwilling to stand too close. The guards hesitated. Their claws twitched. Their instincts told them to trust the machine, but their fear told them to stay away from the human. For a moment, no one moved. The station that always ran with precision now hung in frozen silence, broken only by the slow, steady beat of a human heart. Then the human finally moved. He lifted his head slightly, and his eyes met the gaze of the alien leader. The calm in his expression was heavier than any weapon. He did not need to speak. His silence alone challenged them. The leader felt it the same way the others did. This was not a mistake in the scanner. This was something else, something deeper. The machine beeped again, long and sharp. Across the monitor flashed another word in alien script. Warning. The letters glowed like fire, pulsing with each beat. The guards froze. Never before had the machine issued a warning without a weapon detected. The whispers turned into panic. "He carries death inside him," shouted one alien. "His heart is unnatural," another cried. The crowd pressed further back. Some ran, their footsteps echoing through the hall. The guards' formation broke slightly, and their leader barked harsh orders to restore order. But even he could not hide the unease in his glowing eyes. The human did nothing. His chest rose and fell slowly, each breath controlled, each heartbeat defying the panic that surrounded him. In that moment, the scanner pushed itself one last time. Its lights flared to their brightest, beams pressing so deep they seemed to shine through flesh and bone. The monitor shook with static before stabilizing. And there, in sharp detail, it showed the impossible energy radiating from the human heart. A glow unlike any weapon, unlike any device, unlike anything recorded in the galaxy. The guards froze. The leader's mandibles trembled. The aliens watching gasped. No one spoke. The scan was complete. The human secret was not a weapon in his hands. It was the power in his heartbeat. And the machine, built to expose danger, could do nothing but reveal the truth it could not explain. The station's grand hall had never been so quiet. The scanner stood frozen, its screen locked on the glowing rhythm of the human heartbeat. Red lines pulsed across the display, steady, alive, yet unreadable to the alien system. The machine did not move forward. It did not finish its scan. It was as if the heartbeat itself had trapped the device in an endless loop. The insect-like guards stared at the monitor in disbelief. Their claws twitched nervously against their black armor. The leader leaned closer, mandibles clicking as he read the alien script again. The word was simple, but it struck with weight. Unknown. No code, no weapon type, no category. Just that single word blinking beside the human's heart. Around them, the crowd pressed back. Whispers spread like fire through dry leaves. It stopped at his heart. The machine cannot read him. What kind of creature is this? Some voices trembled with fear, others with awe. In the station, where order and rules always reigned, this moment felt like the start of chaos. The human stood still, his face calm, almost indifferent. His eyes did not flicker toward the screen. He did not look at the guards or the crowd. He simply breathed, steady, quiet, as though the scanner's panic had nothing to do with him. His stillness made everything worse. The aliens could not understand how someone surrounded by so much fear could remain so composed. The leader barked orders in his harsh, clicking language. Two guards rushed forward, claws reaching for the controls. They pressed every sequence they knew, but the screen refused to change. Another slammed a claw against the side of the console. The machine only flashed brighter, amplifying the heartbeat until the sound filled the hall like a drum of war. Thump, thump, thump. Each pulse seemed to echo inside the chests of those listening. Some aliens pressed their hands against their own hearts, as if comparing their weak rhythms to the thunderous beat on the screen. The difference made them uneasy. It was too strong, too steady, too alive. "Shut it down," one guard hissed. "This is not a scan. It is interference." But the machine ignored them. Lights flared again and again, returning only to the same locked image. The human's heartbeat dominated everything. Fear spread deeper. A group of merchants abandoned their cargo and hurried away from the hall. A family of smaller aliens pulled their children close, shielding them as if from a weapon. Even seasoned warriors shifted uneasily, their instincts telling them they were witnessing something outside their control. The leader's eyes narrowed. He turned sharply to his second-in-command, who shook his head. "It cannot be overridden," he said in their hissing tongue. The leader's claws tapped against the console. He hated the feeling, the sensation that he was no longer in control. Machines obeyed. Guards enforced. Order was absolute. Yet here, all their power bent to the rhythm of a single human heart. The human finally moved. Slowly, he raised his head and looked at the monitor. His calm eyes reflected the red glow of the frozen screen. He gave no smile, no sign of threat, only that steady look. It was enough to silence even the whispers for a brief moment. Then the screen flickered again. The word unknown vanished. For one long breath, the display went black. Everyone leaned forward, waiting, and then new symbols appeared across the screen. Not words the guards recognized, not codes the machine was programmed to show. Just strange shapes, shifting lines, glowing patterns that looked almost alive. The crowd gasped. The heartbeat returned, stronger than before, wrapped in those symbols. The sound grew heavier, shaking the very walls of the hall. Thump, thump, thump. It no longer felt like a sound, felt like a force. One alien in the crowd broke down, shouting, "It is not a man. It is a weapon in flesh." His words sent a ripple of fear through the others. Some began to leave in panic, running for the exits. Guards shouted for order, but even their sharp voices were drowned beneath the endless pulse. The leader forced himself to step forward. He faced the human directly now, his glowing eyes sharp, his claws ready. "What are you hiding?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the hall. "What power is in your chest?" The human did not answer. His lips pressed into a thin line, and his silence became heavier than any reply. The scanner beeped once more. The strange symbols faded. Only the heartbeat remained, pulsing across the display, locked and unchanging. The monitor refused to move on. The scan had not failed. It had chosen to stop here, as though it could not go past the human heart. The leader stepped back. His claws lowered, his eyes narrowing. He knew machines did not make choices. And yet, staring at the screen, he felt as if the scanner itself feared what lay beyond the heartbeat. The hall remained frozen, no one daring to move. The guards, the crowd, the leader, all were prisoners of that endless pulse. And the human, standing calm at the center of it all, seemed less like a visitor and more like a warning. The hum of the scanner filled the silence like a trapped animal, broken only by the heavy beat of the human heart echoing through the monitor. The guards stood frozen, claws flexing nervously, their glowing eyes darting between the machine and the man. The crowd kept their distance, whispering in fear, some clutching their children close, others ready to run. No one dared to step forward. The leader of the insect guards stared hard at the human. His mandibles twitched, and his armored legs shifted restlessly on the polished floor. He had commanded hundreds of scans, had seen smugglers caught, assassins exposed, even warlords dragged away. But he had never seen a machine freeze like this, never seen a single heartbeat overwhelm technology built to expose every secret. The human did not move. He stood in the glowing frame of the scanner, calm as stone. His eyes were steady, his breathing even, his face unreadable. He was not resisting, yet he was not obeying either. His stillness carried weight, a quiet challenge that none of the guards could ignore. The monitor's heartbeat rhythm grew louder. Thump, thump, thump. It rolled through the air like thunder. Each beat seemed to press against the walls of the hall, rattling through the bones of those who listened. Aliens shifted uneasily, their own hearts racing faster, unable to keep up with the human's steady pulse. The difference was terrifying. One merchant shouted from the back, his voice sharp with panic. "Stop him! Shut it down! That thing is not natural." His words broke the fragile silence, and soon others joined in. "He hides a weapon inside. No one's heart beats like that. Remove him before he destroys us all." The noise spread like a storm. The guards barked orders, but the panic only grew louder. Some creatures began to retreat down the hall, abandoning their places in line. Others pressed to the walls, giving the human more space, as if distance could protect them from whatever the scanner had uncovered. The leader raised one claw sharply, commanding silence. His voice cut through the noise, harsh and metallic. "He has no weapons. The machine shows nothing but the heart. But even his words carried doubt. His eyes flicked back to the monitor, where the glowing rhythm pulsed stronger than before. The human finally moved. Slowly, he lifted his head and looked around the hall. His eyes swept over the crowd, then settled on the guards. His expression was calm, but his silence felt heavier than any words. For a moment, even the loudest whispers died. The leader stepped forward cautiously. His claws flexed, but he did not raise them. "What are you?" he demanded in his clicking tongue. The words translated into sharp tones by the station system. "What force lies inside you?" The human did not answer. Instead, he simply placed a hand against his chest, where the heartbeat thundered strongest. His fingers pressed lightly over the fabric of his shirt. He did not smile, did not speak, only stood with that quiet gesture. The monitor beeped again, louder this time, almost like a warning. A new symbol flashed across the screen, one the guards had never seen before. Jagged lines, a red circle. The word beneath it translated simply to alert. Gasps erupted through the hall. Some aliens dropped their belongings, their voices rising in panic. "It is a hidden bomb," one shouted. "No, it is alive, a weapon of flesh," another cried. The fear rippled outward, uncontrolled, unstoppable. The guards tightened their stance, but even they stepped back an inch. Their instincts told them to fight, but their fear whispered something else. What if no blade or claw could stop this? What if the real danger was not outside his body, but inside it? The leader felt the weight of the moment pressing against him. His mandibles twitched as he considered his choices. Arresting the human might trigger disaster. Letting him pass might unleash something worse. And yet, the man's steady presence made every option feel powerless. The human's eyes met the leader's again. Calm, silent. The hall's noise seemed to fade for a moment, replaced by the heavy sound of the heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. It was not the sound of a weapon, but it carried more strength than any blade. Then, without warning, the scanner lights flickered wildly. Sparks spat from its frame, and the machine groaned as if breaking under the strain. The monitor shook, the glowing heartbeat expanding across the screen until it filled every corner. The word alert flashed brighter and brighter. The crowd panicked. Aliens rushed toward the exits. Crates toppled. Shouts filled the air. The guards snapped into action, trying to control the chaos, but even they could not stop the tide of fear. And in the middle of it all, the human stood calm, untouched by the storm around him. His silence was no longer just strange, it was terrifying. The monitor froze once more, locked forever on the image of his heart. The rising tension had reached its peak. No one knew what the next moment would bring. The hall that once bustled with order was now trembling with fear. The scanner's monitor remained frozen, glowing with the image of the human heartbeat, each pulse thundering through the speakers. The word alert flashed again and again, but no guard dared to approach. The crowd had already pulled back to the farthest walls, leaving the human alone in the center like a figure of mystery. Every alien in the room felt it. The beat was not just sound, it was pressure, like invisible waves pushing against their bodies. Smaller creatures pressed their hands over their chests, gasping as their own hearts tried to keep pace. A few collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by the rhythm that was not theirs. Whispers rose once more, carrying fear through every corner. "He is a weapon," one muttered. "No, worse. He is something new," another hissed. "What if his kind all carry this power?" asked a trembling voice. The guards, trained to be fearless, were not immune. Their sharp claws twitched. Their armored legs shifted nervously. Even their leader, who never showed weakness, felt his throat tighten. He had seen assassins with poisons, soldiers with hidden bombs, smugglers with dangerous tech, but never a man whose own heart could terrify a station of thousands. The leader barked orders in his harsh tongue, commanding reinforcements. Within moments, more guards poured into the hall, their weapons glowing with energy. They formed a half-circle around the human, claws raised, blasters humming. But even then, none stepped closer. It was as if the invisible weight of his heartbeat held them back. The human remained still. His breathing was steady, his expression calm, his eyes unreadable. He stood like a statue inside the scanner's light, as though nothing outside him existed. His silence grew heavier with every passing second. The monitor crackled again, showing new lines of strange data. The symbols meant nothing to the guards, but the numbers beside them made their jaws tighten. Power readings, high, unstable, unmeasurable. The machine could not classify them. The display blinked rapidly, energy beyond limit. Gasps swept through the crowd. Some aliens screamed, convinced the man's heart would explode at any moment. Parents grabbed their children and fled. Merchants abandoned their crates, cargo rolling across the floor as they ran. Panic spread faster than the guards could contain it. "Stay back," the leader shouted, but his own voice betrayed unease. "He carries no weapon. It is only his body." "Only?" An alien cried out. "That is worse than a weapon. He cannot be disarmed." The words struck deep. A weapon could be taken, broken, destroyed, but a heartbeat could not be removed. It was life itself. The idea that a living body could carry such power was more terrifying than any device. One young alien in the crowd trembled, her wide eyes fixed on the human. "If this is just one," she whispered, "what if there are more? What if all humans are like him?" The thought spread quickly, planting seeds of fear in every mind. The leader's mandibles clicked anxiously. He glanced at the monitor again. The readings did not stop. They climbed higher and higher, beyond what the machine was designed to handle. Sparks jumped from the console. Smoke curled into the air. Still, the screen refused to turn away from the heart. The guards stepped back another pace, even as they raised their weapons higher. No one dared to shoot. What if killing him triggered something worse? What if stopping the heart unleashed the very energy they feared? Every option felt like stepping into a trap. Through it all, the human finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, carrying easily over the noise. "My heart is not your enemy," he said. The words were simple, yet they silenced the room. "It is only life, but life itself is stronger than you think." The crowd froze, uncertain whether to believe or fear him more. The leader narrowed his glowing eyes. "You expect us to trust you?" he hissed. The human did not answer. He lowered his hand from his chest and simply stood there, calm once more. His silence left the question hanging heavy in the air. The monitor gave one last violent flicker. A shower of sparks rained down from the console, and the machine finally shut itself off with a hiss of smoke. The scanner's lights went dark. Yet even without the machine, the echo of the heartbeat still seemed to fill the hall, as though every ear had been trained to hear it forever. The fear did not leave with the silence. If anything, it grew stronger. Without the monitor, the guards no longer had numbers or readings to cling to. All that remained was the unknown, the mystery of a heart that defied their understanding. A man who stood calm while an entire station trembled. The leader's claws tightened. He had no answers, no plan, no order that felt safe. For the first time in his career, he understood the true weight of fear. Not fear of weapons, not fear of war, but fear of something they could not explain. And the human, standing quietly at the center of it all, had become the embodiment of that unknown. Smoke still curled from the broken scanner, rising in thin streams that smelled of burnt wires. The console's lights had died, but the memory of the human heartbeat still echoed inside every creature present. The hall was no longer filled with the hum of machinery. It was filled with silence heavy enough to crush the air. The guards held their formation, claws raised, weapons humming softly, yet none dared to strike. Their leader's eyes glowed with confusion and doubt. Around them, the crowd clung to the walls, their faces pale with fear. Some whispered prayers in their strange tongues. Others muttered curses. No one stepped forward. No one wanted to be the first to test the unknown. The human finally moved. His calm figure shifted slightly, breaking the stillness. He lowered his hand from his chest and let it fall loosely by his side. His eyes swept over the guards, then turned toward the frightened crowd. His gaze was steady, not cruel, not arrogant, but filled with a kind of quiet certainty. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly, low but strong enough to reach every corner of the hall. "You fear my heart," he said, "because you do not understand it." The words rippled through the silence like a stone thrown into water. The guards stiffened. The crowd froze. His voice was not filled with anger, nor with defense. It was simple, calm, and yet it carried a weight that none of the aliens could ignore. "My heart is not a weapon," he continued, his tone steady. "It is what keeps me alive, what keeps every human alive. It is not steel. It is not fire. It is not a bomb. It is life itself. But life is stronger than you imagine." The leader hissed sharply, claws twitching. His voice rang out through the hall. "Stronger? Do you mock us? Your life shakes our machines. It terrifies our people." The human did not flinch. His eyes locked onto the leader's. "Because you measure strength only by what you can break. You do not understand the strength of what cannot be broken." The words cut deeper than weapons. The guards exchanged nervous glances. Some lowered their claws slightly, uncertain whether to treat him as a threat or a teacher. The crowd shifted restlessly, caught between fear and strange curiosity. The human took a single step forward, out of the dead scanner's frame. The movement sent a ripple of panic through the hall. Some shouted warnings. Blasters hummed louder as guards raised their weapons, claws shaking. But the human did not rush. He moved slowly, deliberately, with the calmness of someone who had nothing to hide. "Do you think strength is in your claws?" he asked softly, his eyes passing over the insect guards. "In your weapons? In your walls of steel?" His voice grew firmer, though never loud. "Strength is in this." He pressed his hand to his chest once more, over the steady thump of his heart. The will to keep beating no matter the storm. The courage to stand when fear says to kneel. "That is what you do not understand." The crowd murmured. Some shook their heads in disbelief, unwilling to accept his words. But others felt something different stir inside them. A strange pull, a realization. His voice carried no threat, no promise of violence, yet it shook them more deeply than the blaring alarm of the scanner. The leader snarled, trying to regain control. "Empty words. You think to frighten us with riddles? Your body carries a force we cannot explain. That is danger enough." The human tilted his head slightly, his calm never breaking. "Perhaps it is not my body you fear," he said softly. "Perhaps it is that your machines, your rules, cannot measure me. And what cannot be measured, you cannot control." The silence that followed was heavier than before. The guards' eyes flickered with doubt. The crowd whispered, their fear shifting into something more complicated. Suspicion, yes, but also awe. The human stood tall, his figure lit by the faint sparks of the broken scanner. "You call my heart a danger," he said, his voice carrying into every ear. "But it is not danger. It is hope. It is proof that even when machines fail, life continues. That is what you fear. Not destruction, but endurance." The leader's mandibles clicked furiously. He wanted to argue, to order his soldiers forward, but his words stuck in his throat. For the first time, he did not feel like the one in command. The human lowered his hand and let it rest at his side again. His calm expression did not change. He did not advance further, but he did not retreat either. He simply stood, his silence carrying more weight than the shouts of the crowd or the weapons of the guards. One by one, the blasters lowered slightly. The guards hesitated, uncertain. The leader barked at them, but their claws wavered. They felt it too, that strange pull, that sense of something greater than fear. The human had not raised a weapon, had not taken a single aggressive step. Yet, with nothing more than his words and his steady heart, he had turned a hall of fear into a place of uneasy silence. And though the aliens would not admit it aloud, many of them felt the same thought pressing against their minds. If this was just one human, what would it mean if there were millions like him? The hall was no longer filled with noise, yet it was not truly silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on every being, heavier than gravity itself. The scanner lay broken, its frame flickering weakly, the smell of burnt circuits hanging in the air. Still, in the minds of all who had witnessed it, the heartbeat remained, steady, strong, unforgettable. The human stood calm at the center of it all. His chest rose and fell with quiet rhythm, each breath a reminder that he was alive, that no machine could erase what he carried inside. His silence now was more powerful than his words. The guards kept their weapons ready, but none moved closer. They were caught between fear and something they did not want to name, respect. The alien leader's mandibles twitched, glowing eyes locked on the man. He wanted to act, to restore control, but every order he considered felt hollow. The crowd, pressed against the walls, looked not at the guards anymore but at the human. Fear still lived in their faces, but curiosity burned alongside it. Then, without warning, the broken scanner gave one last spark. The monitor flickered back to life, dim and unstable, but alive. Static filled the screen for a moment before clearing. What appeared was not the usual display of weapons or warnings. Instead, the screen showed the heartbeat once more, bigger, brighter, pulsing like fire. And this time, the monitor added something new. Across the image, in glowing alien script, appeared a word no one expected. Warning. Unstoppable. Gasps tore through the hall. Some aliens stumbled back. Others dropped to their knees. Even the guards hesitated, claws trembling at their sides. The machine had never spoken such a message before. To call something unstoppable was to admit defeat before a battle had even begun. The leader hissed in disbelief. Impossible, he spat. No being is unstoppable. His voice shook despite his effort to sound strong. The human finally raised his head, his calm gaze meeting the leader's. He did not smile. He did not threaten. He simply spoke, his voice steady and unyielding. You fear the word because you believe it means destruction. But unstoppable does not mean I will break you. It means I will endure. That is what you cannot understand. The words carried across the hall like a wave, washing over the crowd. Some trembled harder, fearing endurance even more than power. Others felt their fear twist into something else, something close to admiration. To endure was not to destroy. It was to survive no matter the odds. And that, they realized, was what made the human so dangerous. The leader barked at his soldiers to tighten formation, but their hesitation grew clearer with each heartbeat that echoed in their ears. Their blasters wavered. Their eyes flicked between their leader and the human, uncertain whom to obey. The human took a slow step forward. The guards flinched, but none fired. His voice rose again, calm but firm. You build machines to measure weapons, but you cannot measure spirit. You cannot measure will. That is why your scanner failed. It is not my body that terrifies you. It is what drives it forward. The hall trembled with whispers. Spirit, one alien repeated softly, the word strange in her mouth. Another muttered, willpower? Is that what the machine saw? The human continued walking, each step slow, deliberate. The guards parted slightly without realizing it, their bodies reacting before their minds could decide. The leader hissed in fury, but his voice cracked. For the first time, command was slipping from his claws. The human stopped only when he stood just beyond the broken scanner's frame. His figure glowed faintly in the sparks of the damaged machine. He turned his gaze to the crowd, to the fearful eyes watching him. Your machines can find blades, he said softly. They can find poisons, bombs, hidden fire, but they cannot find what lives here. He pressed his hand gently over his chest. Hope, courage, the choice to stand when others fall. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us dangerous. The hall fell into silence again. This time it was not the silence of fear, but the silence of realization. Many lowered their heads, unable to meet his gaze. Others stared with wide eyes, their fear shifting into awe. Even the youngest alien child in the corner seemed to feel it, gripping her parent's hand tighter, not out of fear, but out of something new, understanding. The leader tried once more to assert himself, his mandibles clacking harshly. You speak of spirit, of courage, but we rule this station. You will obey or be destroyed. The human's eyes met his, calm as ever. Then try, he said quietly, not with arrogance, but with certainty. The words struck like lightning. The guards froze. None moved forward. None fired. They knew, as the crowd knew, that even if they struck him down, they would not win. For the machine had already spoken the truth. Unstoppable. The leader's claws lowered slowly. His glowing eyes dimmed with something he could not admit, fear. He had lost. Not in combat, not in blood, but in something far more dangerous. He had lost control. The human stood tall, his heartbeat steady, his presence undeniable. He had not raised a weapon, had not taken a life, yet the hall had changed forever. The aliens now understood that danger did not always come with fire and steel. Sometimes it came in silence, in spirit, in the steady rhythm of a human heart. That was the turning point, and from that moment forward, no one in the station would ever look at a human the same way again.